Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Elon Musk sent out a directive on Saturday requiring all federal employees to send an email by the end of today summarizing their accomplishments last week. According to the email, they have until midnight to respond or face losing their federal job. We have the latest on this breaking story. Meanwhile, a number of Trump-appointed cabinet heads have reportedly told their employees no need to respond. Is this the first showdown of Elon Musk's authority? Maine Governor Janet Mills challenged President Trump to try to cut federal funding over the issue of transgender inclusion in women's sports in her state. Maine is defying the president's executive order that prohibits men playing in women's sports. President Trump says that he will cut federal funding for any states defying his action. Celebrating 1 month in office, President Trump took CPAC by storm this weekend, delivering the keynote address at the premier conservative event of the year. We have some highlights for you there.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
We saw headlines over the weekend that underscores the ongoing battle for the soul of our nation. From Elon Musk's bold moves to streamline our bloated federal bureaucracy, to the left's relentless assault on traditional family values, and the liberal media's internal turmoil with the whole issue with Joy Reid evidently being canceled. Let's start with Elon Musk and his overhaul as he continues to spark liberal outrage. Musk at the helm of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which has become a buzzword across the nation. He issued a directive requiring all federal employees to report their weekly accomplishments or face termination. This move aims to cut through the inefficiency, the waste that has plagued our government for decades now. Predictably, the left is all up in arms, even some Republicans. Democrat Representative Sean Casten took to social media calling for mass civil disobedience and claiming that Musk has no authority to enforce this directive. But let's be clear here. Holding government employees accountable is not only within the administration's rights, but it's also a necessary step to ensure that our dollars, your tax dollar, my tax dollars, is well spent. This pushback from federal agencies and unions primarily, employee unions, only highlights the deep-seated resistance to change within the D.C. swamp. And it's time for a government that works for you and me, not the other way around. Can you imagine if your employer, if your boss said, okay, I want you to send me an email by the end of the workday today telling me what you did last week. If you said, I'm not going to do it, can you imagine the response you would get? But yet, all these Democrats are up in arms like this is something unusual, to tell your employer your achievements, to tell your employer what you actually accomplished. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn says it's unacceptable for federal employees not to comply.
What we know is happening through the DOGE efforts and through Congress and the work we're doing is accountability for the U.S. taxpayer. We want people who have been working jobs, many of them working remote, not showing up to the office in years, many of them working only 1 day a week in the office. Tell us what you're doing with your time. This is what happens in the private sector, and everybody has to fill out a report every week. Tell us what you're doing. What have you accomplished? What are your challenges? Where do you need additional help or support? That is what you call proper management. And we have federal employees that are saying, we don't want to do that. We want to do whatever we want to do on our time. And that is not acceptable.
And I have to agree with the senator from Tennessee. It's not acceptable. However, there was some mixed signals over the weekend. Let's start with the new FBI director, Kash Patel. He is making it clear to the Bureau that they do not take marching orders from Elon Musk. Now, I don't know if this is a turf war that's already starting here or what. Mr. Patel directed FBI staff to ignore the request from Elon Musk that all federal employees show the work that they've accomplished in the last week. In his memo to the FBI, Patel said FBI personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The FBI, through the Office of the Director, is in charge of all our review processes and will conduct reviews in accordance with FBI procedures. When and if information is required, we will coordinate the responses. For now, please pause any response. The message, of course, came just a day. This was yesterday after Elon Musk had issued the Justify Your Job ultimatum to all federal employees on Saturday. Musk said on X Saturday, consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management sent the email out to all federal employees shortly after Musk tweeted this. Included in the email that was sent were instructions for employees to list approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week and to copy your manager. And it asked for federal workers to not list any classified information. Federal workers, again, have until the end of today to respond. However, Musk's promise of termination for failure to comply does not appear in the email. Mr. Patel was not the only cabinet official who seemingly was asking or instructing his employees to ignore Musk's order. The Department of Defense told its civilian workforce to ignore Musk's request to report their productivity. In a letter to the DoD personnel, Darren Selnick, who is performing the duties of the Undersecretary for Defense and their personnel department, provided guidance on how to handle Musk's demand through the Office of Personnel Management. The email that DoD employees received said DoD personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The Department of Defense is responsible for reviewing the performance of its personnel, and it will conduct any review in accordance with its own procedures. When and if required, the Department will coordinate responses to the email you have received. For now, please pause any response. Again, almost identical to the note that the FBI received. DoD sending out the same thing. The State Department also reportedly issued a similar message to employees over the weekend, informing them that department officials, quote, will respond on behalf of the department. This was sent out by Ambassador Tibor Nagy, who serves as acting Undersecretary of State for Management. And the New York Times reported that the National Intelligence Director, Tulsi Gabbard, sent similar guidance to employees of agencies she oversees in the intelligence community, saying, given the inherently sensitive and classified nature of our work, I see employees should not respond to the OPM email. National Treasury Employees Union employees advised not to respond as well. So you've got almost half of the agencies so far that have reported here who have told their employees, hey, don't worry about it, just ignore Musk's dictate. How does that work? How can federal agencies just deny something that, Musk has the blessing and the directive of President Donald Trump. So is this a turf war that's already starting? Is this going to be a problem when you have Elon Musk issuing these directives, I would assume, under the direction of President Donald Trump? And you have cabinet secretaries and major department heads within these agencies just telling their employees, don't worry about it. Don't have to report. We'll take care of it for you. Not all federal agencies are pushing back. An email to the Department of Health and Human Services employees confirmed the email was legitimate and advised employees to respond by Monday's deadline, according to a message that was sent out by Bulwark editor Sam Stein. So some agencies are saying, yep, this is legitimate, you better respond, or you could face the consequences. Look, I understand that maybe Elon Musk jumped the gun a bit here, and these other cabinet secretaries are saying, look, we're in charge over here. You need to coordinate with us. I get that. The intent of what Elon Musk is trying to do is legitimate, though. We need federal employees to be responsible for what they're doing, and it's not out of the ordinary for any employee to have to report to their employer what they've accomplished, what they've done this week. That is not asking too much of anyone.
There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com.
Pope Francis, who is 88 years old, reportedly is in critical condition at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, battling bilateral pneumonia and early-stage kidney failure. According to reports from the Vatican, despite his health, he's alert, participated in Mass on Sunday. Medical updates indicate that while his condition is serious, the early kidney failure is currently under control. The Pope has expressed gratitude for the outpouring of prayers and support from around the world. The global community continues to rally in support of the Pope. From his native Argentina to various corners of the world, faithful followers are organizing prayer vigils and special services, hoping for his swift recovery. The Vatican has acknowledged these gestures, emphasizing the Pope's appreciation for the solidarity shown during this challenging time. Medical reports caution that given Pope Francis's age and his pre-existing health conditions, his situation requires close monitoring. The primary concern remains the potential for sepsis, a severe blood infection. However, as of now, there are no signs of these types of complications. The Vatican continues to provide regular updates, urging the faithful to keep the Pope in their prayers. There's an unfolding drama between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. As reported by the New York Post, President Trump has been advocating for a deal where the United States would gain rights to Ukraine's vast mineral resources as a form of repayment for the substantial aid that we've already provided. However, President Zelensky has different ideas, and he is balking at this proposal, asserting that the aid from Joe Biden's administration was a grant, not a debt, he said. He stated, "I do not recognize that Kyiv owes the U.S. even $100 billion. This stance has introduced a new layer of complexity to the U.S.-Ukraine relationship." Well, look, there's nothing complex about this. If Ukraine wants continued support, which I'm not inclined to give anyway, you're going to do it under our terms. And I don't think that Zelensky is in any position to be making demands of Donald Trump at this point. I mean, let's break this down. The U.S., under Joe Biden, extended significant support to Ukraine even when the American people were saying enough is enough. We continued to send billions of dollars. Joe Biden did. This support is not a charitable donation. It's an investment in promoting democracy and stability in that region that some argue is critical to our national interests as well, and probably are to a degree. President Trump's proposal, though, is to secure mineral rights. I mean, this is a strategic move to ensure that American taxpayers see some type of return on this investment, not just give it away. Joe Biden loved to just give our money away. Joe Biden did not have the business acumen to think, well, you know what? If we're going to give them billions of dollars, maybe we should ask for something in return. But President Zelensky's response raises some real questions as to whether or not he really wants to cut a deal here. And I hope that Donald Trump lets him know real quick that, look, if you don't want any more of our money under our terms, then that's okay. Get it from someplace else. By rejecting this proposal, Zelensky is undermining the very alliance that has been pivotal to Ukraine's defense. Where would Ukraine be right now if it weren't for the United States and Joe Biden? And a few on the Republican side, some of the hawks that love to get us involved in conflicts around the world. It's essential to recognize that international aid often comes with expectations of some type of mutual benefit. That's just fair with anything. The notion that the aid was a grant with no strings attached is at best a misunderstanding of international relations, and I don't think there's any misunderstanding here. President Trump's approach reflects a broader strategy of ensuring that American foreign aid serves American interest. End of sentence. It's a very simple concept. We're going to give you money. We expect something in return. This is not about exploitation. It's about forging partnerships that are beneficial to both parties. If Ukraine doesn't want our money, then, hey, go someplace else. Again, Ukraine stands to gain continued support, security guarantees, while the U.S. gains access to resources vital to our interests as well. That's a fair deal. It's a win-win. Yet President Zelensky seems reluctant to embrace this reality. I don't think he understands he's not really in a strong negotiating position here. Maybe Zelensky doesn't understand the mood of the American people. This situation also highlights the stark contrast between President Trump's America First policy and Joe Biden's give it all away. Under Joe Biden, aid was dispensed without any kind of clear expectations at all, leading to scenarios where the American generosity was taken for granted. We were taken advantage of. We were laughed at. Now, President Trump, he's redefining these relationships, ensuring that America's contributions are met with appropriate returns. And one more thing, it's worth noting that President Trump's proposal is not without precedent. Throughout history, nations have secured access to resources in exchange for support. This strategy not only bolsters aiding the aiding nation's economy, which would be us, but also solidifies alliances. By offering Ukraine a path to economic development through resources that our country can provide through our partnership, President Trump is presenting a solution that addresses both their needs and our needs. It's a real simple concept to me. So let Zelensky make all the demands he wants. I hope and I think Donald Trump will call his bluff. Now, the mainstream media, in its typical fashion, is portraying this as an overreach by Donald Trump. They're framing it as an attempt to strong-arm a vulnerable nation. Let's just cut through the noise here. This is about establishing a relationship where both nations benefit, where the American support is acknowledged and reciprocated. It's about time that we have a leader who understands the art of the deal. He wrote the book on it, remember? President Zelensky's hesitation to engage in this mutually beneficial agreement is quite troubling. It's an opportunity for Ukraine to secure continued support and for the U.S. to ensure that our aid translates into tangible benefits. It's high time that we reevaluate all of our international relationships and international aid, and that we make sure that America's generosity is strategic and that it's repaid. This whole thing about that it's a grant, I can't imagine Zelensky having the nerve to say, well, you know what, that was a grant. That wasn't a loan. That he doesn't feel some type of obligation to repay us or to at least give us some type of benefit from the mineral rights that his country is so rich with. For far too long, the U.S. has extended aid without clear expectations. Donald Trump's going to put an end to that. This in the past, during the Biden-Harris administration, it led to alliances that were frankly just one-sided. We were doing all the giving. There was nothing in return. Trump's proposal was a step towards rectifying this imbalance by securing agreements that benefit both Ukraine and us and any other countries for that matter. We're fostering partnerships that's based on mutual respect and our shared interest. We all win. It's also important to address the misinformation that's circulating in the media as well. Critics argue that President Trump's approach is transactional and lacks compassion. Let's be clear here. Ensuring that American aid serves American interests doesn't negate our support for global allies. It simply means that we're approaching these relationships with pragmatism that we apply to domestic policy. In the case of Ukraine, this strategy is particularly pertinent. By collaborating on resource development, we're not only aiding Ukraine's economy, but we're also securing materials essential to our own industry, to our own best interest. This is the essence of a symbiotic relationship, one where both parties thrive. We get what we need, they get what they need. As we move forward, it's going to be crucial, I think, for leaders like President Zelensky to recognize the value that we offer, but to understand that we have a new attitude in the United States, and that's America first. That the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris deals are out. They're off the table now. We're not just giving you a one-sided deal here. We're not going to continue to send you billions of dollars with no expectations of something in turn. We can embrace this partnership, or we can move on, because I'm sure there are other countries who would love to get our money. Am I missing something here? You agree? Send me a quick email, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can text me as well. Hey, did you see the news over the weekend at MSNBC? The network is going to cancel the Joy Reid show, the Readout. Reid, of course, she's known for her divisive rhetoric. She's a far-left liberal. She's been a polarizing figure for way too long. This is way past due. We welcome this move as conservatives. Good riddance, Joy Reid. Liberals, they're critical of the network now. They're saying that the network has caved, that they're silencing the progressive voices. Evidently, there's a lot of turmoil over at MSNBC because there's hints that there's going to be more to come. This internal conflict within the liberal media really kind of underscores a broader identity crisis here. As their narratives continue to crumble and reality sets in, they're scrambling. They're pointing fingers. They're literally eating their own. It's a spectacle that would be entertaining if it weren't so indicative of the misinformation they peddle daily. Folks, we're at a crossroads here. The effort to hold our government accountable, preserve the sanctity of family, expose media bias as just not political battles. They're fights for the very fabric of our society, and we have to continue winning. And I've got all the faith in the world that Donald Trump is going to continue to lead us in that direction.
Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com.
Did you see the story out of Wisconsin where the Democrat governor, Tony Evers, has proposed releasing the word mother in state laws with terms like inseminated person? Now, look, we thought that this whole woke stuff was going to go away. Well, maybe we knew that it wasn't going to totally go away, but we thought that some of this nonsense would go away with President Donald Trump's leadership. Some of these Democrats seem to just be digging in, though. This is part of a broader effort, of course, to use so-called gender-neutral language, including changing paternity to parentage and husband or wife to spouse. You can't say husband or wife anymore. You always have to say spouse. But not say mother, say inseminated person. NFL legend Brett Favre didn't mince words calling the proposal nonsense. He's right. This is yet another example of the radical left's attempt to erase traditional family value structure and sow confusion under the guise of inclusivity. Look, Tony Evers needs to understand, just like the governor from Maine, those days are over. We spoke loud and clear in November. We don't want this crap anymore. It's just that simple. And speaking of this, Senator Marsha Blackburn reacted to Governor Janet Mills of Maine, her spat with Donald Trump last week over the issue of transgender inclusion. This lady went to the White House with a chip on her shoulder. She waited on the opportunity to confront Donald Trump, and Trump gave her that opportunity. Trump signed the No Men in Women's Sports executive order earlier this month. This is supposed to ensure that no transgender athletes compete against women or girls in sports. Some states, like Maine, have bucked the executive order, though. They're going to defy it. It all led to a public dust-up, if you will, between Mills and President Trump in the White House last week. She had some nerve to challenge President Trump in the White House. Trump threatened to withhold federal funding, and look, he gives as just as well, because right in front of all the other governors, he told the Maine governor, "Hey, I'm going to cancel your federal funding." And of course, she just jumped right back and said, "Well, I'll see you in court." Senator Marsha Blackburn talked about Maine's decision in an interview on Fox News with anchor Mike Emanuel.
This is one of those defining issues between the left and the right. We fully believe that President Trump is right on this. It is the policy of the federal government that we will support Title IX as there for women in women's sports. Mm-hmm. And we will not support men, biological men, in women's sports. And as President Trump said, that this is the federal position, and therefore the governor should be enforcing that. She should want to protect women in women's sports. It is unbelievable that she would choose to not do that.
Look, this lady needs to understand Donald Trump will make a believer out of her. The executive director of the primary governing body for high school sports in the state of Maine also says that athletic teams will continue to determine eligibility based on a student's stated gender identity, despite the president's executive order. Colorado Governor Jared Polis, who is a Democrat but serves as the chairman of the National Governors Association. And this whole thing started, the National Governors Association was meeting at the White House with the president when all this started. He said that basically trying to make some peace here, saying that as governors, they needed to find some common ground.
We always hope that people can disagree in a way that elevates the discourse and tries to come to a common solution around what the issue is. I don't think that disagreement was necessarily a model of that.
I wouldn't say it's a model of anything, for sure. The Republican Party is now the proud voice of everyday Americans across the country and the party of common sense, according to President Trump, who was also at the CPAC conference over the weekend. Trump told the largest gathering of conservatives that over the past month he's confirmed an all-star team of warriors, patriots, visionaries who put the America First agenda into action.
Joe was the worst, and believe me, I have to clean up the mess. I'm cleaning up the mess, and it is a mess on the border with inflation. Could go over every single thing he touched turned to the fraudsters, liars, cheaters, globalists, and deep state bureaucrats are being sent packing. The illegal alien criminals are being sent home. We're draining the swamp and we're restoring government by the people. We're liberating communities like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, that have been occupied by illegal alien criminals from all over the world. We're rescuing the Americans whose jobs have been stolen, whose wages have been robbed, and whose way of life has been absolutely destroyed. And under the Trump administration, our country will not be turned into a dumping ground.
Trump entered the convention hall, the Gaylord at National Harbor, just down the Potomac from the White House, to a roaring crowd chanting USA, USA. He closed out what was an 80-minute speech by vowing to stand strong and fight for America over the next 4 years. The enthusiastic crowd included many protesters from the January 6, 2021 Capitol protest, including one man who screamed, "Daddy, we love you, thank you, Daddy," as President Trump took to the stage to the de facto MAGA anthem, Lee Greenwood's Proud to be an American. Again, just a huge crowd, over 1,000 people there, enthusiastically supporting and welcoming the President of the United States. Trump blasted his predecessor, Joe Biden. You heard him talking about Joe Biden there, calling him the worst president in the history of our country. He said, "I don't care, I'll say it. Jimmy Carter passed away, and he was a happy man when he passed away because it was not even close," saying, of course, that Joe Biden overtook Jimmy Carter's record as being the worst president in our history. He said, "We had a president who put illegal aliens up in the penthouse suites in beautiful hotels on Park Avenue, on Madison Avenue, on Fifth Avenue." He said, "Now you have a president who is stamping their ticket to Gitmo." Earlier on Saturday, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, also spoke to CPAC. He proclaimed, "If I offend anyone today, I don't give a..." You can fill in the blank. He continued his war of words with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez during a very fiery speech there at CPAC. You may recall last week, Holman and Ocasio-Cortez sparred over Trump's administration's immigration policies on X. She's saying that he needed to read the Constitution. He kind of rebuffed that, saying that she just needed to learn how to read. This year's conference drew a who's who of conservative leaders, Trump administration officials. Again, it was just down the river from the nation's capital there, just outside, and so you had a lot of people there. And, of course, like all CPAC conferences, one of the highlights is their annual straw poll vote. And the overall consensus of CPAC, and they usually get this right when it comes to the Republican nomination, is that J.D. Vance will be the Republican Party's presidential nominee in 2028.
Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com.
If you thought tort reform was just another mundane legislative issue, well, think again. In South Carolina, the battle over lawsuit reform has reached a boiling point this week, drawing in powerful interest, business leaders, and even a surprising voice. Donald Trump Jr. recently weighed in via X, has everybody kind of scratching their head. So here's the story. On one side, we have South Carolina's entire business community, including small mom-and-pop shops, corporate leaders, the governor, insurance providers, all calling for a common-sense lawsuit reform. On the other, powerful trial attorneys are fighting to maintain a system that's been in place for decades. And then there's Donald Trump Jr., whose unexpected opposition to the reform bill has added a surprising twist. A number of pro-business organizations are weighing in on this discussion as the state Senate is considering their Senate Bill 244. On our guest line is Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber. Matt, things got a little spicy this week, didn't they?
They did. I think in politics, when people push, others push back, and I think we saw that with Senator Massey finally getting fed up with some of the somewhat unfounded rhetoric coming from the trial lawyer set.
Yeah. So give us a quick summary of why this issue is important, and then where you think we stand.
Sure. I think of utmost importance, it's providing a fair environment for businesses to do what they do, whether it's a restaurant and a bar, whether it is a trucking company, whether it is a delivery company. Yes, insurance issues are a problem in this state, but so is the lawsuit environment. It is. I think this week I saw an interview with a USC professor from Darla Moore School, and literally what stuck with me was it is open season on South Carolina business, 365, 7 days a week, and you're just like, man, there is no wonder why we praise the people that are getting businesses to this state, to expand in this state and stay in this state, with the environment that we're currently providing. And I think the biggest push right now is just to offer some competitive fairness, not competitive fairness. That's a kind of a short-sighted piece, I think. But I think if you're looking for certainty and trying to make decisions for longer-term forecasting when it comes to businesses, this is really one of those things that really is top of mind for a lot of folks running said businesses.
So what's the overall temperature among legislators in Columbia, and what do you see as the solution to this?
Sure, I think it depends on who you're specifically talking about. You know, when we have our lawyer set of legislators, temperature is pretty hot. When it comes to folks that are wanting an environment that is fair, that is an economic based outcome, based on what you put forth into the market, it seems to be a pretty unified front. There's a lot of noise. We talked about last week about being there, some gaslighting going on with some of these folks. But I think from the broader picture, it literally is just the certainty businesses need in order to succeed, in order to make policy decisions of their own.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening now in Columbia is long past due. I think the folks that are kind of on the fence about 244, the tort reform bill, really are a lot closer to being supportive of 244 than they are being completely against it, which is a very good thing.
Thank you, Matt. In a nutshell, here's where we are. Most business leaders agree that we need a system based on proportional liability, holding each party accountable for their actual share of responsibility. It sounds like common sense, right? Yet South Carolina's current laws allow businesses to be held 100% responsible, even if they're only considered 1% at fault. This issue is particularly devastating for small businesses, especially bars, taverns, restaurants. The current system creates massive legal vulnerabilities that drive up costs, force many to close. And we've seen that over this past year. We've seen a lot of small restaurants, bars, and grills have to close because they simply can't get affordable liability insurance. Senate Bill 244 would eliminate the unjust practice of forcing businesses with deep pockets to pay the full price for accidents in which they played a minor role. Not only is this fair, but it would also lower the cost of doing business in South Carolina and ultimately benefit all residents by reducing prices. We're all going to benefit from this. So where does Donald Trump Jr. come in? Good question. Trump Jr.'s opposition to the bill has left many puzzled. According to the report in the state newspaper, it may be something to do with Senator Shane Massey's previous support for Nikki Haley. I don't know. Regardless of the reasoning, what's clear is that this bill helps small businesses just as much as it helps large corporations, making it a win for the entire state. And look, we all agree something has to be done. We can't keep doing what we're doing. Some examples that I've read about. Scott Woods, he's the owner of City Tavern in Greenville. He has seen firsthand how broken the system is. After operating for 16 years without a single lawsuit, he's been hit with 3 lawsuits and nearly 30 demand letters since 2021. He fought back, refusing to settle frivolous claims, but most businesses don't have the resources to do the same. It's very expensive to fight back. Convenience store owners are feeling the heat. Jackson Lancaster has seen liability insurance for selling beer and wine soar to $30,000 a year when it was just $800 or so prior to this crisis. Other businesses have been forced to settle massive lawsuits as well. Incidents that were largely out of their control, driving insurance providers out of South Carolina altogether. We've gone from having 15, 20 insurance carriers, to down to just a few now, which makes the prices, you got to take what they give you. And it's just not fair to small businesses to be put into this situation. An example is the Parker's Kitchen case. We all know about the Murdaugh saga in the lower part of the country. It's a prime example of how our system works. Despite checking ID, following the law, Parker's Kitchen was still held responsible and had to settle for $15 million. Under current South Carolina law, businesses can be forced to cover the cost of others' negligence. And because the Murdaugh kids purchased the beer that was drank that horrible night when the boat accident happened, Parker's Kitchen was held responsible. If you agree it's time for tort reform to make things more fair in South Carolina, call your state senator, ask him or her to support Senate Bill 244. Contact your House member as well. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.